Commander Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of the Galactic Council station and watched the stars. He had been standing there for 20 minutes, trying to calm his nerves before the emergency meeting. Behind him, his science officer Amy Rodriguez checked her datapad for the 100th time. She was nervous too, though she tried not to show it. "They're not going to listen to us," Amy said quietly. Jake turned to look at her. She was right, and they both knew it. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for 15 years now, but the other species still treated them like children. The humans were the newest members, the youngest species to reach the stars. Every other civilization had thousands of years of history. Some had been traveling between worlds since before humans learned to write. "We still have to try," Jake said. He straightened his uniform and headed toward the council chambers. Amy followed, along with Dan Peters, their tactical advisor. Dan was a big man with a serious face. The council chambers were huge. The room was circular, with seats rising up in levels like an ancient amphitheater. Representatives from 40 different species sat in those seats. At the center was High Chancellor Vrax of the Kelnor hegemony. The Kelnor looked like tall, thin humans, with silver skin and large black eyes. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, with over 4,000 years of recorded civilization. Vrax had been the High Chancellor for 30 years, which was still young by Kelnor standards. Jake and his team took their seats in the lower level, where the younger species sat. Above them were the elder races, the ones who made all the real decisions. Jake looked around and saw fear on many faces. Good, he thought. They should be afraid. What was coming would destroy them all if they didn't find a way to stop it. Vrax called the meeting to order. His voice was calm and measured. As always, "We gather in dark times," he said. "The threat we face is unlike anything in recorded history. I now call upon Science Director Melnor to present the latest data." OPAM. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish moved to the center of the room. Holographic images appeared in the air above them. Jake had seen these images before, but they still made his stomach turn. The Void Swarm. Billions of black metallic drones, each the size of a small house, moving through space like a plague of locusts. Behind them, they left nothing but dead worlds, stripped of all matter. "The swarm has consumed 17 civilizations in the past 4 months," Melnor said. His voice came from a translation device since his species communicated through color changes. "The Zenthari Empire fell 3 weeks ago. The Kolmari Collective was destroyed yesterday. Current projections show the swarm will reach the core worlds in 3 months." A wave of worried sounds filled the chamber. 3 months. That was nothing. Jake watched the hologram closely. The swarm moved in perfect coordination, every drone acting as part of a whole. It was beautiful in a terrible way. "We must discuss defensive options," Vrax said. I opened the floor to proposals. For the next 2 hours, Jake listened as the elder races debated. Each species had ideas, but every idea had problems. The Kelnor suggested building a massive energy barrier, but it would take 6 months to construct. The Prelians wanted to develop a weapon that could disrupt the drone's power source, but they needed 2 years of research. The Torvans proposed evacuating everyone to a distant galaxy, but there weren't enough ships. Jake raised his hand several times, trying to speak. Each time, Vrax ignored him. Finally, during a pause in the discussion, Jake stood up. "High Chancellor, humanity would like to offer a perspective," Jake said loudly. Vrax looked down at him with what might have been annoyance. "Commander Morrison, we appreciate your presence, but this discussion requires experienced input. Humanity's spacefaring history spans less than 2 centuries. Perhaps it would be better if you observed and learned." Some of the other species made sounds of agreement. Jake felt his face grow hot with anger, but he kept his voice calm. "With respect, High Chancellor, sometimes a fresh perspective is exactly what's needed. We've reviewed the data and we see patterns that might be useful. Patterns? A representative, from the Vexian Confederacy, spoke up. The Vexians were insect-like creatures with multiple arms. Young species, you have barely left your home system. What patterns could you possibly see that we have missed? Isness. Amy stood up beside Jake. The swarm has a central network, she said. Every drone is connected to a hub. If we could reach that hub and destroy it, the entire swarm would collapse. Melnor's colors flashed in what the translator called dismissive amusement. We identified the network hub weeks ago. It is located in the center of the swarm, protected by billions of drones. No ship could reach it. We calculated that it would require a fleet of 10,000 vessels fighting simultaneously. The entire galaxy only has 3,000 ships remaining. What if we didn't try to fight through? Dan said. He stepped forward to join Jake and Amy. What if a small, fast ship tried to slip between the drones, instead of engaging them directly? Vrax made a sound like a sigh. Such a strategy was proposed and analyzed. The swarm's defensive patterns would detect and destroy any ship long before it reached the center. The probability of success is less than 1%. We do not waste resources on such low odds. 1% is better than 0%, Jake said. If we do nothing, we all die. If we try something desperate, we might have a chance. This is why younger species should not participate in strategic planning, Vrax said coldly. You think with emotion rather than logic. A 1% chance is effectively no chance at all. We must find a solution that offers real probability of success. Jake wanted to argue more, but Amy touched his arm. He looked at her and saw her shake her head slightly. She was right. They weren't going to convince anyone here. The elder races had already made up their minds. They wanted a perfect solution. A safe solution. They couldn't accept that sometimes there was no safe way forward. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. The council discussed and rejected dozens of plans. Every solution required either too much time or too many resources. Meanwhile, the void swarm kept coming, eating worlds and killing billions. By the time Vrax finally ended the meeting, they had made no real decisions, except to meet again in 2 days. Jake walked out of the chambers feeling frustrated and angry. Amy and Dan followed him in silence. The crew gathered in the Defiance's main briefing room. Besides Jake, Amy, and Dan, there were 3 others. Lisa Chen was the ship's chief engineer, a woman in her 30s with grease under her fingernails and a mind that could solve any mechanical problem. Greg Hamilton served as medical officer and backup pilot, a calm man who never seemed to panic no matter how bad things got. Karen White handled communications, and she was the one who had been monitoring all the Galactic Council's broadcasts. Jake stood at the front of the room with his arms crossed. Everyone's seen the data on the void swarm. The council spent hours talking and came up with nothing useful. They want solutions that are safe and guaranteed to work. But there are no safe solutions. Not anymore. So we're really doing this? Greg asked. Going against the council's wishes? I'm not asking anyone to go against the council, Jake said. I'm asking if anyone wants to volunteer for a mission they won't approve. There's a difference. The council can make their decisions. We can make ours. Number 6. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. What kind of mission are we talking about? Amy activated the holographic display. The image of the void swarm appeared above the table. The swarm has a central hub that controls all the drones. It's here, in the center. If we can destroy it, the entire swarm loses coordination. The drones would still be dangerous, but they'd be confused. The galaxy's fleets could handle them then. The council said no ship could reach the hub, Karen said. They calculated it would take 10,000 ships to fight through. That's because they're thinking about fighting through, Dan said. He zoomed in on the holographic image. Look at the drone formations. They move in patterns. There are gaps, small ones, but they exist. A ship that's fast enough and small enough Might be able to slip through those gaps. Greg studied the image carefully. That's a lot of might and maybe. What are the real odds? Less than 1% according to the Council's calculations, Amy said. But their calculations assume we'll follow normal tactics. What if we don't? Jake walked around the table. The elder races fight with logic and procedure. They have strategies refined over thousands of years. But the swarm adapts to those strategies. It learns from every encounter. The Restus first, about peace. What it hasn't encountered is human tactics. You mean crazy human tactics, Lisa said with a slight smile. Call it what you want, Jake said. The point is that we think differently. We improvise. We take risks they won't take. Maybe that gives us an edge. Karen pulled up another screen. There's something else. I've been monitoring Council communications. They're planning a full evacuation of the outer territories. They're going to abandon millions of colonies and consolidate around their core worlds. They're giving up on everyone in the swarm's path, including our colonies, Amy said quietly. Earth's outer settlements, New Seattle, Armstrong Station, the mining colonies around Kepler 6-2. They're all in the path. Actually aborted formation. They're all in the path. The room fell silent. Jake knew everyone was thinking the same thing. Those colonies held over 2 million humans. Men, women, children. If the Council abandoned them, they would all die. So we have to act, Lisa said. She wasn't asking. She was stating a fact. Yes, Jake said. But I need to be clear about what this means. We'll need a small, fast ship. We'll need to load it with weapons that can destroy the hub, and whoever pilots that ship probably won't come back. This is a one-way mission. What kind of weapons? Dan asked. Amy brought up another file. I've been researching what might work against the hub. Most energy weapons won't do enough damage. Plasma weapons would be absorbed. Kinetic weapons might not penetrate deep enough. But there's one option the elder races haven't considered. What's that? Greg asked. Nuclear weapons, Amy said. Everyone stared at her. Nuclear weapons were old technology, something humans had used centuries ago. Every other species in the galaxy had abandoned nuclear technology thousands of years before. They considered it primitive and barbaric. You're serious? Lisa said. Completely, Amy said. Think about it. The elder races use clean energy weapons. They use shields that deflect plasma and lasers. But nuclear weapons don't care about shields. The electromagnetic pulse from a nuclear explosion would disrupt the drone's electronics, and the raw destructive power would be enough to destroy the hub. Dan nodded slowly. It makes sense. The swarm has adapted to advanced weapons. It might not have defenses against something so old. Earth still has nuclear arsenals, Jake said. They're kept in storage, but they're maintained. We could request emergency access. The Council would never approve that, Karen said. We're not going to ask the Council, Jake said. We're going to ask Earth directly. This is a human mission. We use human resources and human volunteers. Greg stood up and walked to the display. He studied the swarm's formation for a long moment. You said we need a small, fast ship. What did you have in mind? 7. Lisa was already pulling up schematics. The Endeavor. It's a strike craft, designed for quick attack runs. We can strip out everything non-essential and pack it with nuclear devices. I can modify the engines to give us extra speed. How many people would it need? Greg asked. Minimum crew is 2, Lisa said. But realistically, for a mission like this, you'd want 4 or 5. Pilot, navigator, tactical officer, engineer, maybe a backup pilot. Jake looked at his team. I'll pilot the Endeavor. I need a volunteer for navigation. Amy raised her hand immediately. I'll do it. I know the swarm's patterns better than anyone. Creases. Tactical, Dan said before Jake could ask. You'll need someone to handle the weapons. Engineering, Lisa said. If something breaks, and something always breaks, you'll need me there to fix it. That's 4, Jake said. Greg, I need you to stay with the Defiance and coordinate. Karen, you too. Someone has to tell the galaxy what we did. Assuming we succeed. Greg didn't look happy about it. But he nodded. Understood. But I'm coming with you as backup pilot. You'll need 5 people for a mission this dangerous. Karen can coordinate from the Defiance. Jake wanted to argue, but he knew Greg was right. The more people they had, the better their chances. He looked at each of them. These were good people. Brave people. They deserved better than a suicide mission. But they were volunteering anyway, because that's what humans did when their backs were against the wall. All right, Jake said. Lisa, start working on the Endeavor. Strip it down and prepare it for the nuclear payload. Greg, help her. Amy and Dan, work on plotting the best course through the swarm. Find every gap, every pattern we can exploit. Karen, I need you to send a coded message to Earth Command. Request emergency release of nuclear weapons. Tell them what we're planning. What about the Council? Karen asked. Should we inform them? Jake thought about it. Not yet. We'll tell them once we're ready to launch. By then, it'll be too late for them to stop us. Over the next several hours, the team worked without rest. Lisa and Greg transformed the Endeavor from a standard strike craft into something unique. They removed the crew quarters, the galley, everything except essential systems. The extra space was filled with nuclear weapons, hundreds of them. Everything Earth Command could quickly transport to their location. Amy and Dan studied the swarm's movements until their eyes hurt. They found patterns. Tiny windows where a fast ship might slip through. The course they plotted was insane, threading through gaps that were barely wider than the ship itself. One mistake, 1 second of bad timing, and they would crash into the drones. But it was possible. Barely, but possible. Karen sent the message to Earth and received a response within hours. Earth Command approved the mission. More than that, they were sending every available nuclear device in storage. They understood what was at stake. If the swarm wasn't stopped, Earth itself would eventually fall. As Jake watched his team work, he felt something he hadn't felt in the council chambers. Hope. It was a small hope, a desperate hope, but it was real. The elder races had forgotten how to hope against impossible odds. They had become comfortable, secure in their power and technology, but humans remembered what it was like to face extinction and keep fighting. 3 days had passed since the council meeting. The Endeavor sat in the Defiance's launch bay, transformed into something that would have horrified most engineers. Lisa had worked miracles, stripping the small ship down to bare essentials and packing every available space with nuclear devices. The ship looked dangerous, even sitting still, like a weapon waiting to be fired. Jake stood in the bay, running his hand along the Endeavor's hull. The metal was cold under his fingers. He knew every rivet, every panel. He had flown strike craft like this one dozens of times, but never on a mission like this. Never knowing he probably wouldn't come back. She's ready, Lisa said, walking up behind him. She looked tired. She had barely slept in 3 days. I've pushed the engines as far as they'll go. You'll have speed, but you won't have it for long. The modifications aren't stable. You'll get maybe 2 hours of maximum burn before the engines start to fail. 2 hours should be enough, Jake said. Either we reach the hub by then, or we're already dead. Lisa nodded. She started to say something, then stopped. Jake knew what she was thinking. They had worked together for 5 years. She was his friend. Maybe she wanted to say goodbye. Maybe she wanted to tell him he was crazy. Instead, she just squeezed his shoulder and walked away. Amy was in the navigation station, checking her calculations one more time. She had the course memorized, but she kept reviewing it anyway. Dan sat at the tactical console, familiarizing himself with the weapon systems. Greg was in the pilot's seat, running through pre-flight checks. They all knew their jobs. They were as ready as they would ever be. Karen's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Commander Morrison, you need to see this. There's activity on the long-range scanners." Jake climbed up to the Defiance's command deck. Karen had several screens open, all showing different sensor readings. What Jake saw made his blood run cold. The void swarm was moving faster than predicted. It had changed direction slightly, and the new trajectory would bring it to the core worlds in 6 weeks instead of 3 months. "How is this possible?" Jake asked. "It's learning," Amy said. She had followed him to the command deck. Every battle, every defensive measure the galaxy uses, the swarm adapts. It's moving faster because it learned how to move more efficiently. At this rate, it will reach Earth in 5 weeks. 5 weeks. Jake felt the weight of that number. Every human colony, every ship, every person on Earth had 5 weeks before the swarm arrived. Unless someone stopped it. "There's more," Karen said. She pulled up another communication. "I intercepted this from the Galactic Council. They're finalizing the evacuation plan. They're abandoning the outer territories in 2 weeks. After that, they're sealing the core worlds behind a defensive perimeter. They're giving up," Dan said. He had joined them on the command deck. "They're just going to hide and hope the swarm doesn't break through. We need to launch now," Amy said. "If we wait any longer, there won't be anyone left to save." Jake knew she was right. Every day they waited, more people died. More worlds fell. He made his decision. "Karen, send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them what we're doing. Tell them if they want to help, they can send ships to clean up the confused drones after we destroy the hub. Otherwise, they can watch." "Should I ask for backup?" Karen asked. "No," Jake said. "They'll just try to stop us. We do this alone." Karen sent the message. Within minutes, responses started coming back. Most were dismissive. Some were insulting. High Chancellor Vrax sent a personal message calling the mission foolish and demanding they stand down. Jake deleted it without reading past the first line. But other messages came too. Human ships, scattered throughout the sector, started reporting in. Captains volunteered to create diversions, to pull swarm forces away from the Endeavor's path. Within an hour, 23 human vessels committed to the mission. They would buy time with their lives if necessary. "They're all volunteers," Karen said quietly. "Every single ship. They know most of them won't survive." Jake felt a lump in his throat. These were his people. Brave, crazy, wonderful people who saw impossible odds and decided to fight anyway. He wished he could thank every one of them, personally. Instead, he recorded a message that Karen would send to all the volunteer ships, to all human vessels participating in this operation. "This is Commander Morrison. You're about to do something no one else in the galaxy would dare. You're going to face an enemy that has destroyed 17 civilizations. You're going to fight when the elder races have given up. I won't lie to you about the odds. Thanks for watching, and don't see your subscribe time. Most of us probably won't make it. But what we do today will matter. If we succeed, we save billions of lives. If we fail, at least we fail trying. That's better than dying without fighting. Stay brave. Stay human. See you on the other side." The crew gathered in the launch bay. This was it. The moment they had been preparing for. Jake looked at his team one last time. Amy, brilliant and determined. Dan, strong and reliable. Greg, calm under pressure. Lisa, who could fix anything. These were the people he would trust with his life. These were the people he would die beside if necessary. "Last chance to back out," Jake said. "No one would blame you." No one moved. No one spoke. They just looked at him, with steady eyes. "All right then," Jake said. Let's go show the galaxy what humans can do. They boarded the Endeavour. The ship felt cramped with 5 people and hundreds of nuclear weapons packed inside. Jake strapped into the pilot's seat. Greg took the co-pilot position beside him. Amy was at navigation behind them. Dan at tactical. Lisa at the engineering station. The launch sequence began. The bay doors opened, revealing the stars beyond. Jake's hands moved over the controls automatically, muscle memory taking over. The Endeavour lifted off the deck and glided forward into space. All around them, human ships were moving into position. 23 vessels against billions of drones. Jake could see them on the sensors, spreading out to create the diversion they had planned. These ships carried families, friends, people he had served with. They were all about to risk everything. All ships report ready. Karen's voice came through the communication system. Good luck, Commander. Come back to us. We'll do our best, Jake said. He closed the channel and looked at his crew. Everyone ready? They confirmed one by one. Ready. Jake engaged the engines. The Endeavour leaped forward, accelerating faster than any standard strike craft should be able to move. Lisa's modifications were working. They were flying toward the void swarm at incredible speed. The volunteer ships launched their attack. Jake watched on the sensors as they engaged the outer edge of the swarm. Explosions blossomed in the darkness. Human ships darted between drones, firing everything they had. They were drawing attention, pulling swarm forces toward them, and away from the Endeavour's planned route. Course plotted and locked, Amy said. Threading the needle in 3, 2, 1. Mark. The Endeavour dove into the swarm. Suddenly they were surrounded by drones. Massive black machines that moved with terrible purpose. Jake's training took over. He flew by instinct, following Amy's navigation precisely. The ship twisted and rolled, slipping through gaps between drones. Alarms screamed. A drone passed so close Jake could see its surface details. Another came from above. Greg called out warnings. Dan monitored the weapons, ready to fire if they were spotted. Lisa watched the engines, making constant adjustments to keep them running. They flew deeper into the swarm. The drones grew thicker, the gaps smaller. Jake's hands were steady on the controls, but his heart pounded. One mistake would be fatal. 1 second of hesitation would end them all. Contact, Dan said. 3 hunter drones detected. They're faster than the regular swarm. Can we outrun them? Jake asked. Not without burning out the engines, Lisa said. Then we fight through, Jake said. The hunter drones closed in. They were sleek and deadly, designed to chase down fast targets. Dan fired the Endeavour's rear guns, trying to slow them down. He hit one, and it exploded in a shower of debris. The other 2 kept coming. Hold on, Jake said. He pulled the ship into a sharp turn, diving toward a cluster of regular drones. The hunter drones followed. At the last second, Jake pulled up. The Endeavour cleared the cluster by meters. The hunter drones weren't as lucky. They crashed into the regular drones, and all of them exploded. Nice flying, Greg said. We're not done yet, Jake said. The hub was nothing like they expected. Jake had imagined some kind of massive computer, a technological structure built from metal and circuits. Instead, what filled the view screen looked organic. It was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, and it pulsed with a sickly blue light. Long tendrils extended from its surface, connecting to nearby drones like neural pathways. What is that thing? Greg whispered. It's alive, Amy said, studying her sensors. It's not a machine. It's a living organism. Some kind of massive biological computer. How old is it? Dan asked. Amy checked her readings again. Based on the cellular structure, I'd estimate millions of years. Maybe older. This thing has been doing this for longer than any civilization in the galaxy has existed. Jake stared at the hub. It was beautiful in a horrible way, like watching a predator in the wild. This creature had consumed countless worlds across multiple galaxies. It had killed trillions of beings, and now humanity was going to try to kill it. Sensors are going crazy, Amy said. It knows we're here. It's responding. The tendrils began to move. The drones around the hub shifted their formations, creating a wall between the Endeavor and its target. Then new drones appeared. Different from the others. These were smaller, faster, more aggressive. Hunter drones, Dan said. Hundreds of them. They're coming right at us. Time to target? Jake asked. 5 minutes if we can maintain speed, Amy said. But those hunters will reach us in 2. Arm the weapons, Jake said. We'll fight our way through. Dan's hands moved over the tactical controls. Nuclear devices, armed and ready. We can detonate them in sequence as we approach. The EMPs should disrupt the hunters. Do it, Jake said. The Endeavor released its first nuclear weapon. It fell behind them like a metal egg, tumbling through space. When it detonated, the explosion was massive. The electromagnetic pulse washed over the approaching hunter drones. Their lights went dark. They drifted, dead in space. But more hunters came. The swarm was throwing everything at them now. The hub had identified them as a real threat. Second weapon away, Dan said. Another explosion. More hunters destroyed. But the Endeavor was taking damage. The ship shook as debris from the destroyed drones pelted its hull. Hull breach in Section 3, Lisa said. She was already moving, heading to the back of the ship with a repair kit. Keep flying. I'll patch it. The ship lurched. Jake fought to keep it stable. They were so close now. He could see the hub's surface in detail, see the way it pulsed and moved. It looked almost like it was breathing. Third weapon away, Dan said. This explosion was different. It detonated closer to the hub, and when the EMP hit the massive organism, it reacted. The entire thing convulsed. The drones around it spun wildly, confused by the disruption in their network. It's working, Amy said. The EMPs are hurting it. But we need to get closer. We need to detonate the main payload right against its surface. I'm on it, Jake said. He pushed the engines to maximum. The ship screamed in protest. Warning lights flashed across every console, but they were moving, cutting through the confused drones, racing toward the hub. Engine temperature critical, Greg said. We're going to burn out. Just a little further, Jake said. A hunter drone appeared directly in their path. There was no time to dodge. Jake braced for impact. At the last second, Dan fired the forward guns. The shot hit the hunter's power core, and it exploded. The Endeavor flew through the debris cloud. 1 minute to target, Amy said. Behind them, Lisa crawled back to her station. Her face was bruised, and she was bleeding from a cut on her forehead. Hull is patched, she said. But we've got bigger problems. The engines are failing. We won't be able to reverse course. Once we reach the hub, we're committed. Jake understood what she was saying. They couldn't escape. The ship would be destroyed along with the hub. He had known this might happen, but hearing it said out loud made it real. Does everyone understand? Jake asked. This is it. Last chance to bail out. Greg, you can still take the emergency pod. Get clear before the final detonation. Not a chance, Greg said. We started this together. We finish it together. Same, Amy said. I'm staying, Dan said. Lisa didn't even answer. She just looked at Jake and shook her head. Jake felt something break inside him. These people, his crew, his friends, they were choosing to die with him. Not because they had to, but because that's what humans did. They stayed together. They didn't abandon each other. 30 seconds, Amy said. Her voice was steady. The hub loomed before them, filling the entire view screen. They could see individual cells on its surface, see the way they pulsed with alien life. It was ancient and powerful and terrifying, but it was also vulnerable. Humanity had found its weakness. Dan, prepare to detonate all remaining weapons on my mark, Jake said. Ready, Dan said. 10 seconds, Amy said. Jake thought about Earth. He thought about the colonies, the millions of people who would live because of what they were about to do. He thought about the galaxy, about all the species who had dismissed humanity as too young, too reckless. They would remember this day. They would remember what humans had done. 5 seconds, Amy said. The Endeavour closed the final distance. The ship's hull actually touched the hub's surface. They could feel it through the deck plates, a strange vibration like a heartbeat. Now, Jake said. Dan triggered the detonation sequence. Every nuclear weapon aboard the Endeavour went off simultaneously. The explosion was beyond description, beyond measurement. It was like a new sun being born, a star emerging in the darkness. The electromagnetic pulse spread out in a wave, hitting billions of drones. Their systems fried instantly. They went dark, tumbling lifelessly through space. The hub itself was destroyed completely, vaporized by the raw power of the blast. But in the millisecond before the Endeavour was consumed by the explosion, Lisa moved. Her hands flew over the engineering controls. She had been working on something in secret, something she hadn't told the others about. She had rigged the emergency pod with an automatic launch. Slaved to the weapon's detonation, the pod launched at the exact moment of the explosion. Inside were Jake, Amy, Dan, and Greg, all unconscious from the acceleration. Lisa had dosed their air supply with a sedative, knowing they would try to stop her if they knew what she was doing. Lisa stayed behind. She watched her crew escape in the pod, watched it accelerate away from the blast zone. Then she turned to face the approaching fire. She wasn't afraid. She had done what she came to do. Her friends would live. The galaxy would survive. That was enough. Her last thought was of Earth, of the blue planet where humanity was born. She hoped they would remember this day. She hoped they would tell stories about the crew of the Endeavour, about the people who faced impossible odds and won anyway. Then the fire reached her, and everything became light. The emergency pod tumbled through space, pushed by the shockwave from the massive explosion. Inside, Jake began to wake up. His head pounded. His mouth was dry. He tried to remember what happened. The detonation. The hub. Lisa. He opened his eyes and saw Amy, Dan, and Greg waking up around him. They were in the emergency pod, somehow alive. Jake's mind raced, trying to understand. Then he saw the message on the pod's small screen. It was from Lisa, recorded just before the detonation. "Hey guys," Lisa's voice said. The recording showed her face, calm and smiling. "If you're watching this, the mission worked. The hub is destroyed. The swarm is defeated. And you're alive, which is good because someone needs to tell everyone what happened here. I rigged the pod to launch automatically. I knew you'd argue if I told you, so I didn't tell you. Don't be mad. Or do. I guess I won't know. Take care of each other. Tell Earth we weren't afraid. Tell them humans don't give up, and tell them that when the darkness came, we lit a fire." The message ended. Jake stared at the blank screen. Beside him, Amy was crying quietly. Dan had his head in his hands. Greg was silent, but tears ran down his face. Lisa was gone. She had sacrificed herself to save them, to make sure someone survived to tell the story. Jake wanted to scream, to rage against the unfairness of it. But he couldn't, because Lisa had been right. Someone needed to survive. Someone needed to tell the galaxy what happened. The pod's emergency beacon activated automatically. Within hours, a Galactic Council rescue ship found them. As they were brought aboard, Jake looked back at where the hub had been. All that remained was an expanding cloud of debris. And the Galactic Council chambers were different than before. Where there had been empty debate and endless discussion, there was now silence. Every representative sat quietly as Jake Morrison walked to the center of the room. His uniform was torn and stained. His face showed bruises and cuts that were still healing. But he stood straight, and his voice was strong. "The Void Swarm is destroyed," Jake said. "The hub is gone. Your fleets can now clean up the remaining drones. They're confused and uncoordinated. Your weapons will be effective against them now." High Chancellor Vrax stood from his seat. For the first time since Jake had met him, the Kelnor leader looked uncertain. "Commander Morrison, the Council owes humanity a debt we cannot properly express. We have received reports from across the sector. The swarm has collapsed exactly as you predicted. Billions of drones are disabled. Our fleets are moving to secure the affected areas." "How many survived?" Jake asked. His voice was flat. Vrax hesitated. "Of the volunteer ships, 4 vessels made it back. The rest were lost. We estimate 347 crew members died in the operation. 347. Jake felt each number like a weight. He knew some of those people. He had served with them, laughed with them, shared meals with them. Now, they were gone. "They were heroes," Vrax said. "All of them. The galaxy will remember their sacrifice." "Will you?" Jake asked. He looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. "Will you really remember? Or will you forget in a few years when things are comfortable again?" The chamber remained silent. Several representatives looked away, unable to meet Jake's eyes. "You dismissed us," Jake continued. "You told us we were too young, too inexperienced to help. You calculated the odds and decided it wasn't worth trying. But humans don't think like that. We don't give up just because the numbers are bad. We fight anyway. We take the crazy risks. We do what needs to be done, even when everyone says it's impossible." Amy stepped forward to stand beside Jake. She looked tired but determined. "The elder races have amazing technology. You have thousands of years of knowledge and experience. But somewhere along the way, you forgot something important. You forgot that survival sometimes requires sacrifice. You forgot that comfort and safety can make you weak." Dan joined them. "You spent hours debating perfect solutions. But there was no perfect solution. There was only the choice to act or not act. Humans chose to act." Greg completed the group. "And we paid the price. Good people died because we made that choice. But if we hadn't, everyone would have died. The swarm would have consumed the entire galaxy." Vrax descended from his elevated seat. He walked to stand directly in front of Jake. The tall, silver-skinned alien looked at the human commander for a long moment. Then, slowly, he bowed his head. "You are correct," Vrax said. "The Kelnor hegemony has existed for 4,000 years. We have seen empires rise and fall. We believed our age gave us wisdom. But we were wrong. Humanity taught us something we had forgotten. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear. We apologize for dismissing you. We apologize for not listening." One by one, other representatives stood and bowed. The Prelians, the Vexians, the Torvans, even the proud Zenthari survivors. They all showed respect to the human delegation, but Jake felt no satisfaction. He was too tired, too sad. Lisa was dead. Hundreds of others were dead. Respect from the Council didn't bring them back. "What happens now?" Jake asked. "The Council wishes to discuss several proposals," Vrax said. "First, we want to share technology with humanity that we have kept restricted: advanced shield systems, faster engines, medical technology. Second, we propose a joint military training program. Our forces can learn human tactics and adaptability. Third, we want to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Council, with full voting rights and equal status to the elder races." Jake looked at his crew. They looked as surprised as he felt. Full council membership was something humanity had been trying to achieve for years. The elder races had always said humans needed more time, more experience. Now, they were offering it freely. There's one more thing, Vrax said. We want to build a memorial. We want to honor all those who died stopping the swarm. Not just humans, but all species. The memorial will orbit Earth, where humanity began. It will remind future generations of what was done here. What will it say? Amy asked quietly. That is for humanity to decide. Vrax said. It is your victory, your sacrifice. You should choose the words. 2 months later, the memorial was completed. It was a massive structure of crystal and metal, visible from Earth's surface on clear nights. Ships from across the galaxy came for the dedication ceremony. Millions watched from their worlds as the memorial was officially unveiled. At the center was a list of names. Every person who died fighting the swarm was recorded there in letters that would last for thousands of years. Lisa Chen's name was carved largest, in honor of her final sacrifice. Around the names were words that Jake had chosen himself. They showed us that the youngest voice may carry the oldest wisdom. That courage is not the absence of fear but the choice to act despite it. That sometimes the newest species among us are the ones who remember best what it means to truly live. When the darkness came, they lit a fire. They showed the galaxy who humans truly are. Jake stood before the memorial with Amy, Dan, and Greg beside him. Karen was there too, along with survivors from the volunteer ships. They all wore dress uniforms. They all carried the weight of what they had done and what it had cost. Do you think she would have liked it? Amy asked, looking at Lisa's name. She would have made a joke about her name being too big, Greg said. Then she would have complained that the crystal wasn't properly maintained and needed polishing. They all smiled sadly. That sounded exactly like Lisa. A young girl approached them. She was maybe 10 years old, clearly from one of the Earth colonies. She held something in her hands. A small wooden carving of the Endeavor. My dad was on the volunteer ship Liberty, the girl said. He didn't come back. But he told me, before he left, that sometimes people have to do hard things. He said humans don't run away from hard things, we face them. She held out the carving. I made this for you. For all of you. Thank you for what you did. Jake took the carving carefully. His throat was tight. Your father was a brave man, he managed to say. We'll make sure everyone remembers what he did. The girl nodded and ran back to her mother. Jake looked at the small wooden ship in his hands. It was crude, made by a child's hands, but it was more meaningful than any medal the Council could give. Over the following years, humanity's place in the galaxy changed completely. The Council's promises were kept. Technology was shared. Training programs were established. Human advisors were requested by species who had once dismissed them. Young races throughout the galaxy looked to humans as proof that age didn't determine worth. Jake was promoted to admiral and given command of the first integrated human-alien defense force. Amy became the head of a new research institute dedicated to studying threats from beyond the galaxy. Dan trained tactical officers from a dozen different species. Greg ran a medical program that combined human and alien techniques, but they never forgot that day. The day humans showed the galaxy who they truly were. The day Lisa Chen and hundreds of others gave their lives to save billions. The day humanity proved that sometimes the crazy plan, the desperate gamble, the 1% chance was enough. Years later, Jake received a recorded message. It had been discovered in the debris from the Endeavor, stored in a backup system that somehow survived the explosion. It was Lisa's final words, recorded in the seconds before the detonation. To anyone listening, Lisa's voice said, don't let comfort make you weak. Don't let age make you timid. Don't let success make you forget the fire that got you here. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. Stay human. No matter what species you are. And if the darkness ever comes again, Remember that someone will always be crazy enough to fight it. That's what heroes do. Jake played the message at the annual memorial ceremony. Every year, on the anniversary of the swarm's destruction, representatives from across the galaxy gathered at the memorial. They listened to Lisa's words. They read the names of the fallen. They remembered, and they understood. Humanity had taught them something precious. They had shown that youth could bring strength, that inexperience could bring fresh perspectives, and that sometimes the best solution was the one everyone said wouldn't work. The galaxy never forgot. New civilizations joining the council were told the story of the Void Swarm and the humans who stopped it. Children across 1,000 worlds learned about Lisa Chen and the Endeavor. The story became legend. And the legend became truth. Humanity had shown the galaxy who they truly were. They were not the oldest or the most advanced. They were not the strongest or the wisest. But they were brave. They were determined. They were willing to risk everything for what mattered. They were human. And that was enough. Jake stood before the memorial one final time, decades after the battle. He was old now, his hair gray, his body tired. Amy, Dan, and Greg stood with him, all of them marked by time, but they were together, still honoring the promise they made to their fallen friend. "Do you ever wonder if it was worth it?" Amy asked quietly. Jake looked at the stars beyond the memorial. He thought about all the lives saved, all the worlds that still existed because of what they did. He thought about Lisa's smile, her laugh, her absolute refusal to give up. "Every single day," Jake said. "And every day, I know the answer is yes." She knew it was worth it. They all did. That's why they're heroes. The 4 survivors stood in silence, remembering. Above them, the memorial glowed in the darkness, a beacon of hope and sacrifice, a reminder that when the galaxy needed them most, humanity had answered the call. They had shown everyone who they truly were, and the galaxy would never forget. Scattered throughout the sector, billions of drones floated dead in space. The Void Swarm was destroyed. Humanity had done what the elder races said was impossible. They had taken the 1% chance and made it work. They had saved the galaxy, but the cost had been terrible. Lisa was gone. The 23 volunteer ships were gone. Hundreds of crew members had died to buy the Endeavor enough time to reach the hub. They were all heroes. They were all remembered. As the rescue ship carried them back to the council station, Jake made a silent promise to Lisa and all the others who had fallen. He would tell their story. He would make sure the galaxy never forgot what humans had done. He would show them that sometimes the youngest species, the newest members of their community, were the ones who remembered best what it meant to be brave. 30 minutes to the hub, Amy said. If we maintain this speed, 30 minutes. Jake checked the fuel reserves. They would make it. Barely. Behind them, the volunteer ships were being destroyed one by one. Jake could see it on the sensors. Each disappearing signal meant a crew that wouldn't go home. He forced himself not to think about it. He had to focus on the mission. That was the only way to make their sacrifice mean something. The swarm seemed endless. Drones stretched in every direction, filling space. But Amy's course was perfect. She guided them through the chaos, finding paths that shouldn't exist. They flew deeper and deeper, closer and closer, to the heart of the swarm. And then, they saw it. The hub. Jake knew the odds were terrible. He knew most of them probably wouldn't survive. But he also knew they had to try. Because that's what humans did. They didn't give up. They didn't accept defeat. They found a way, or they made one, no matter the cost. The galaxy was about to learn something about humanity. They were about to learn that the youngest species, the newest members of their community, still had something the elder races had lost. They had the courage to risk everything on a desperate chance. They had the will to face impossible odds and fight anyway. They were about to show the galaxy who humans truly were. SE. They made their way through the station's corridors, back to where their ship was docked. The Defiance was a mid-sized vessel, one of Earth's newer designs. It wasn't fancy compared to the Elder Race's ships, but it was tough and reliable. As they entered the ship, Jake finally spoke. "They're going to let everyone die, because they're too afraid to take a risk. So what do we do?" Dan asked. Jake looked at his team. He saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and near extinction. They had climbed out of caves to reach the stars. They didn't give up, just because the odds were bad. "We find a way to stop that swarm ourselves," Jake said. "Even if we have to do it alone."